You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. This week, my guest is Rob Lawless. Rob is on a personal mission to meet 10,000 different people one-on-one for 1 hour. Rob launched the Rob's 10K Friends project in 2015. And since then, he has met nearly 5,000 people across more than 35 U.S. states and 85 different countries. He has appeared on The Today Show, The Kelly Clarkson Show, On Air with Ryan Seacrest, and more. Rob and I were recently introduced by a mutual friend. We agreed to meet, and I became friend number 4,885 on Rob's journey. There is no structure or agenda to Rob's meetings. It's simply a conversation between two strangers to get to know one another. Rob sees his project to meet 10,000 people as a way to lead by example and show people what's possible when you reach out to others and establish new relationships. I invited Rob on Everybody Pulls the Tarp to find out more about what he's learned on his journey to meet 10,000 different people. I hope our conversation inspires you to reach out and create a new connection in your life. You never know where it may take you. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to Rob Lawless. Rob, where I want to begin, how did the Rob's 10K Friends project get started?
Well, I think it goes all the way back to Penn State. So I graduated from Penn State 2013 and was super involved when I was a student there. Like I was involved in a lot of clubs and activities. And as a result, I built a very organic network and was always running into people on the way to class or out at the bars or whatnot. And when I graduated, I noticed I didn't have that anymore. It kind of felt like everyone was spread out, and I studied finance, so I was doing consulting for Deloitte. And all of a sudden I was in these four walls of a cubicle staring into a computer screen for 12 hours a day. So kind of that sense of community that I had that was so strong was lost. And the other thing was that I minored in entrepreneurship. So I always wanted to do my own thing in life. And when I was in the corporate world, I was like, all right, I can't do this for the next 40 years until retirement and then enjoy my life. Like it just didn't seem like a good path to me. So I was always thinking, how can I create my own path, do something entrepreneurial, and wanting to get back to that sense of community. I was like, let's try to meet 10,000 people and see what comes of opening doors for no particular reason. Because I don't know if you felt the same way. When we graduated, I feel like you go from this place where organic connection is so common to a place where all of a sudden you have to have some type of agenda if you're going to spend time with someone. Like it's networking, it's dating. Why are we going to spend time together? What is the transaction that we're getting out of this? So I wanted to get around that and get back to just meeting people for fun because I think there's a ton of value in that. So in January 2014, I wrote in my iPhone notes, I'm going to meet 10,000 people 10 minutes at a time in 1 year. And that was a terrible idea. That never would have worked. It was just like a naive idea. But a year and a half later, I had left Deloitte to go to a tech startup in Philly. I moved from my parents into the city. And once I was there, I kind of picked up the idea again. I thought, what if I meet everyone for an hour and actually really take the time to get to know them? So November 11th of 2015, I met the very first person, and the rest is history. And we can dive into it. But yeah, that's essentially how it got started.
Rob, how do you go from meeting one person to where you are now, where you've met almost 5,000 people? You're nearing the halfway point of this project. How did you get started? How did you identify who you were going to meet with? How did you get connected with the people that you were going to meet with? Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so when I left Deloitte, I went into sales for a tech startup. So I was in this space where in sales, we would email hundreds of people every day and ask them to hop on the phone to talk about our product or whatever. So I wasn't shy about emailing people and asking for their time. And I didn't care if I got rejected. So in Philly, there's this Who's Next list. I don't even know if it's still going, but it was run through a website called billypenn.com. And it was like, who's next in the political scene of Philly? Who's next in the music scene? Or who's next in the culinary scene. And I thought that's such a cool like breakdown of different industries. I want to meet people from different backgrounds. So I'm going to find the emails of the people on those lists and I'm going to shoot them a message and say, hey, I'm Rob. I have this idea for this project. Do you want to be one of the first 10 people? And I also shot the owner of the site an email just to be like, hey, I'm using your list to define or identify these people that I'm going to reach out to. And he ended up being the first person of the project. He was like, yeah, cool, I'll be part of it. He thought that I was 1,000 to 2,000 people into the project already when he agreed to meet with me. So I was like, no, man, you're in our meeting. He was like, yeah, how many people have you met? Like 1,000, 2,000? And
You're
I told
like
him,
three?
yeah, it was like, you are the start. You're the very beginning of this project. But I started to, hit people up from that list. And there's also, I really like the artistic side of life. So being in business, I wanted to talk to people who were in the creative side of life. And I Googled Philadelphia artists, and there's this website called inliquid.com, and it shows artists from Philadelphia. So I would just go and be like, oh, that art looks cool. Oh, there's their email. I'm going to shoot them an email. And a few of the people in the first 5 were from that. Then it went to word of mouth. People would meet with me and they would understand that I didn't have, like, I wasn't doing a multi-level marketing scheme. I didn't have, like, which people did think beforehand. But after they met with me, they'd say, oh, you know, who you should meet with is my friend so-and-so. Or I have a few people I can put you in touch with. So it just started getting legs that way. And then those introductions, one of the women that I met with early on was like, I have a friend who writes for this publication called the Philadelphia Citizen. You should talk to him. So then I talked to Josh. Then Josh writes an article on me. Then that gets shared all around Philly. So people are reaching out to me from that. And then just through the Instagram community, which I feel like Instagram was so much more impactful back then. Like someone would take our photo, repost it to their page and say, hey, I met with Rob for his project. You should shoot him a message too. And it just kind of grew in that way. And over the years, it went from the Philadelphia Citizen to being on Ryan Seacrest's radio show, to being on Kelly Clarkson's talk show, to being on the Today Show. So all of these different things that just organically happened along the way. And that's kind of how it grew to where it is today.
The Kelly Clarkson Show thing is great. I watched that segment, and what I thought was really cool was that they filled the audience with people that you had met along this project so far. Did you know that Kelly was going to fill the audience with people that you had met and that you guys had all had this common bond already, or was that a surprise when you arrived on set?
Oh, I knew. I individually sent DMs to every single one of those people to be like, hey, I'm going to be on the show, because the producers hit me up and they were like, we want you to be a guest on the show. And then the guy, when we talked, he said, I think it would be so cool if we fill the audience with people that you met through your project. So for context, I'm in Philly now. I live in the city. I lived here for the first year and a half of my project, but 8 months after I started the project, the company I worked for was bought out. So I was laid off. And then I jumped into this full time. So that was July of 2016. And my lease in Philly went to the end of May of 2017. So when that lease was up, I left Philly, and my roommate from Penn State was like, hey, if you want to come out here and live with me in Long Beach, I have an extra bedroom in my apartment and I can just host you. You stay as long as you want. I won't charge you rent. So I took my brother's car because he had moved up to New York City, drove across the country, and I lived in LA for that summer of 2017. And then I went back for 9 months in 2018. So, and then I went back for 3 months in 2019. So fast forward to summer of 2019 when Kelly Clarkson's people reached out to me, I had already met in person 800 people in Los Angeles. So I had a huge network in LA. And yeah, I DM'd every single one of those people, and about 100 of them showed up to the show, which was really cool. But yeah, I knew before, and imagine going on a national talk show with 3 celebrities and then you, and already the nerves are there. And then they're like, oh, we're going to bring in 100 people that you met at some point over the last couple of years, and we want you to tell us facts about them. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. But for the most part, I was able to remember people, which I think was really, really cool. And I think it made that episode feel really special, because even though I was the only one who was not a celebrity, it was like the episode was centered around me in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it's really neat, Rob, because I got a good chuckle watching it, right? Because you did look like you were in the hot seat there. They're asking you kind of to name fun facts about all these people that you had met briefly, but it was remarkable to me, how with most of the people, you were able to kind of draw a connection with where you met them, how you met them, who introduced you to them. That kind of brings me to like these conversations and meetings that you're having with people. What are the dynamics of the conversation? Like, I know you say that they're not interviews, they're conversations. What's the hour look like typically?
It looks like, so my interest in people is like, where are they from? Where are they now? And where are they going? Like, what is their life timeline? I just want to know their story. And I think you can build out everyone's story by thinking about what their childhood was like, what they were like in high school, what they were like in college, if they went to college, if they're in the professional world now, like what does that look like? And who are they outside of that? So there's this framework that I did not come up with. And I think about it a lot now, though. It's called FORD. It stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So that's essentially what I'm doing is I'm filling out those categories with people and laying it over the timeline so I can understand what their life path has been. So for example, like, what was your family like when you were a kid? What does it look like now? Some people have experienced loss and it's changed over time. Occupation is your education from high school, college, if you attended college, into your career and what inspired that. And recreation is your hobbies, what you like to do outside of work. And then dreams is where you want to go in the future. And it doesn't matter at this point. So I met 3,259 people in person. And then COVID happened. And I never wanted to do a video call because I was like, I want to meet people in their locations. I want to be forced to travel. And then obviously I couldn't do that. So I went virtual. And over the last 2 years, I've met probably is like over 1,500 people from 85 countries across the world, which is super cool, like super, super eye-opening. But the thing that I learned is that FORD framework, if you're in Latvia, if you're in Iran, if you're in Brazil, if you're in the States, everyone has the family dynamic. Everyone has their education path. Everyone has their hobbies and everyone has their dreams. And to me, that's one of the things that ties us all together. So I'm just exploring those different categories when I'm with people and I want to, so I write about people afterwards. I take a picture with them and I post their story to Instagram. The thing that I'm concerned about is I want to portray an accurate representation of this person. Like when I write about, because I've had people write about my story too. And they're like, this guy quit his job at Deloitte to interview 10,000 people. And I'm like, no, I didn't quit Deloitte. I went to a tech startup. I was laid off. I'm not interviewing people. So I understand how people can misconstrue other people's stories. And I just want to have like a very accurate representation of who that person is.
Rob, through it all, and you're applying that framework, you talk about how that framework applies no matter where you are in the world and who you are. Are there common themes that you're hearing from people that you're able to weave together?
I think the biggest theme, which I say all the time, is that no one really knows what they're doing with their lives. Everyone is just doing the best they can with the resources that they have. And every single time I say that, you see like the wave of comfort go over the other person where they're like, all right, yeah, me too. So I think that's the thing. And it doesn't matter how old they are or how successful they are. It kind of holds true for every single person that I've met. And then I think like the other thing when I think thematically is just back to that framework. Because I think sometimes we think, oh, this person's from a different country or they're a different race or religion or sexuality, whatever. Like they must be so different than me. You know, their lives are so crazy different than mine. And at the end of the day, it's not. It's like the human experience is, from a thematic standpoint, pretty similar. And it's the details that kind of color us in and make us different. But I think those are the big things, just that no one knows what they're doing and everyone has those similarities.
Rob, one of the things, my whole career has really been predicated around relationships and the importance of networking. And sometimes networking, I think, gets a bad rap because a lot of people don't go about it in the right way. They go about networking in a context that's transactional as opposed to relational. And that's why I'm so impressed with what you're doing. I mean, it really speaks to me. Do you think, you mentioned the COVID and how it created an opportunity for you to talk to people in faraway places. It also, created a period of isolation. It's created a period of divisiveness in our country and well beyond the country. What do you think about connection, like in this modern age? Like, do people value connection enough?
Well, I guess I'll say no, because I think that part of what I think my impact will be is to help people become more intentional about connection and to create more empathy in the world. There's a really great book called A Curious Mind by Brian Grazer. So he's a Hollywood producer. I think his net worth is like $400 million. And I like to bring him up because he's obviously successful in the traditional sense. And I'm not. Like, I'm just a dude out here meeting people. And I lived with my parents up until January. I have my own place now, and I'm building a speaking business around my project, which is great. But I'm still at the very beginning of achieving that success. He's already done it. But he attributes his success, part of it, to these curiosity chats that he's had every 2 weeks throughout his career. He's a Hollywood producer, and every 2 weeks he talks to someone outside of the film industry for like 3 hours just to chat about what their life is like. And he talks about how that impacted his path, and it also impacted the way that he created films. So I think that there's a lot of value that's being left on the table of people not connecting with each other. And I think it's because maybe the way that people think about connection, like sometimes my story will get posted on Facebook or whatever, say like the Today Show posts about it. And you'll see in the comments, people be like, oh, well, it's quality, not quantity. Like I have enough friends. I don't need to go out meeting more people. And I'm like, that's cool too. I have a lot of friends that I'm very tight with in college, and that is my inner circle. But that doesn't mean I can't expose myself to other people for the experience of how they perceive the world. So I think my big thing is I think people should treat human connection as an experience rather than a transaction. And when you do that, it removes the need to be like, oh, well, if I talk to this person, then I have to keep up with them every month from now until the end of time. Or if I talk to this person and it doesn't go well, like, oh, that was awkward. It was a waste of time. But if you think about it as an experience, I can point out to multiple people that I have met 1 hour in my life through my project. I have not seen or talked to them since, but I think about them every week. Or they taught me something that has stayed with me since I talked to them. It could be an entirely new outlook on life. It could be a new book that I go and pick up and read. So I think, yeah, people, if you are more intentional about it, like you build it into your life as a habit, maybe you try to get coffee with one person a month or something like that, and you treat it as an experience, you can really unlock the value of some of those people will lead to really great opportunities. Others may just shift the way that you think about life, or it might just be that you enjoyed an hour of company with someone. And to me, that's valuable enough to take the time to meet someone.
I think you're spot on, Rob. I mean, I feel like so much synergy between kind of what you're doing and kind of how I look at the world too. And that's probably why we got connected in the first place. I think, for so long, I thought networking in the professional context was about meeting people in your industry, in your, immediate kind of like professional neighborhood, if you will. And what you share about that book there and the way you look at things is how my thinking has evolved. And like, I just look at this podcast, and every week, on this show, I have a conversation with a top performer from all walks of life: Olympians, professional athletes, CEOs, authors, TV stars, Instagram influencers, everyday people just doing really cool things, successful by whatever definition of success and happiness that individual has. And, I learn as much from talking to people outside of, my areas of expertise and like maybe historical focus as I do from talking to people within those disciplines and domains. And it's interesting, when you kind of pursue curiosity, what's possible. I think it's really neat. I mean, why do you think people are, like, generally speaking, I think, afraid to just reach out and make new friends, make new contacts? Why don't people reach out?
I think because it's not a norm. So if they are reaching out, like, they might perceive themselves as weird, or they think that other people are going to perceive them as weird. I think that's part of it. I mean, you could go into the whole, like, technology driving us apart, and people are more socially anxious now because they prefer to communicate through text rather than talk to someone. I don't know. Like, I think that is true, but I think that holds true for whatever generation that you're part of. I think I've met plenty of people from Gen Z who are great conversationalists. I've met plenty baby boomers who struggle with conversation, and vice versa. But yeah, I think it's just because it's not the norm. It's not the way that people typically treat human connection. And I think that's part of why, if I think about a legacy that I want to leave, I kind of want to change the way people think. And for me, a big part of doing this project is to lead by example. Because whenever someone succeeds in something, you will see people who want to duplicate that success in their own life, in their own way, with their own spin. And I've already seen that happen with my project. I know someone I met in India who's now trying to meet 1,000 people. There's a girl that I met from Boston who's now doing one-on-one meetups with people. 2 cousins from Toronto who are trying to meet, or they tried to meet new people, and they did meet new people. So the ripple effects are really cool, but it's just, it's not the norm right now. And I think people still think about it in that transactional context, and they don't think about it as like a goal or a habit. And that's one of the great things that I have, and one of the great things that you have is an excuse to meet people, right? Like all those people who have been on your podcast, if you walked up to them on the street and were just like, hey, let's hang for an hour and just chat, they'd be like, I'm sorry, I don't think so. But you're like, hey, I have this podcast. Here's the guests that I've had on it. Here's what I aim to do with it. And suddenly there's context to it. Same for me. Every one of those 4,800 people that I've met, if I just wanted to go chat with them for no reason, they'd probably say no. But because I have a project, all of a sudden they're helping me reach a goal. They're part of something bigger than that hour. And I think that's why I recommend people have a goal, because once you have a goal, you have an excuse. Even if it's just like, I try to meet one new person a month, like it's just part of my personality and what I do, then people, it makes sense to them. So, yeah.
Rob, you're talking my language, man. I mean, people ask me all the time, young professionals, college students, people further along in their career, they said, Andrew, how have you built up the network that you have? How do you always seem like you're kind of interconnected with all these people from all these different walks of life? And I tell people, really like what you said there. I said, look, I get involved in a lot of different things because I'm genuinely interested. I mean, you and I both have the connection of going to Penn State. When I moved to the Washington, D.C. area, I volunteered to organize and create a chapter for Penn State Business School alumni in the greater Washington area. So I became kind of the epicenter, the tip of the spear of a group that grew to over 600 alum. And, we facilitated networking and conversations. But to your point, it gave me a reason to reach out to pretty much any Penn State alum in the greater Washington, D.C. area and say, hey, I've got this thing I'm putting together. Do you want to help? Do you want to be on the advisory board? Do you want to be on a committee? Do you just want to be a member and come out, to the networking happy hour that we're doing? I had a reason to reach out. I've been involved in charity events, the same thing. Again, the podcast, like you say, it's a great platform. If you tap somebody on the street and you say, hey, I'd like to chat with you for 30 minutes about your career, they might say, okay, maybe another day, not today. But when you have a platform, when you have a project and you bring people under the tent, it's amazing, what you could create. Because I think people want to be a part of things and they want to help people get from point A to point B. And I think that gets back to like another point you made there, that people just want to help people. And another thing I tell people all the time is like, when you're interested in meeting someone, I think people like kind of underestimate how interested the other person might be in meeting them. Right. So like I'll get emails, all the time. It'll be a young professional and they'll say like, Andrew, like, I've been hesitant to reach out to you because I'm sure you're so busy and so many people, but like, I'd love to pick your brain on X, Y, and Z. And like, it gives me as much joy to kind of pour back into them and their career because people did it for me. They're sitting there maybe for weeks saying, I don't know, should I email Andrew? And I'm like, heck yeah, this is exciting. And I think that's something that mentors, a mentor of mine told me once, that he said, don't underestimate how much joy and value the mentor gets from the mentee. In a mentor-mentee relationship, it's kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's powerful. I struggle sometimes and just think about, all the people I could meet if I just ask, and I think that's the example that you're setting. And it's so cool that you've created this ripple effect. Rob, I'm curious, like, as you've gone through these conversations, is there a story or a couple stories that really just like surprised you and completely kind of stand out from the rest?
Yeah, I have several of them. And I think that's when I talk about the people that I talked to for an hour, for example, that I haven't seen or talked to since. There was in April of 2020. So right as the pandemic was beginning and people were being told that they had to stay inside and people were struggling with that, I met this girl from Serbia. Her name is Bojana. And we met in I don't research people before I meet with them. Like rarely do I even look at their Instagram. Sometimes it's private, so I don't care. Like I'm still interested to meet them. So I show up and I meet her, same as you and I talking right now. I see from her chest up, and we're talking, and she's like, "Yeah, I would." It's been a while since I've shared my story because I used to share it a lot in the past. And I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting. Why?" And I found out that in July of 2016, she went to a music festival with her friend, and that day became the victim of a mass shooting. So she was shot 6 or 7 times, went into an 8-day coma, and in that time had to have her leg amputated. And when she came out of it, she had no leg, she had nerve damage, and she was pursuing a computer science degree. And I mean, that first off just put everything into perspective. Like, you can stay indoors, right? You can stay indoors and not be outside for a couple weeks or whatever it was. There are worse things that could happen to us. But the other thing, it was just one of the things that struck me was she said that she still liked to go out to concerts and whatnot because she wasn't going to let that experience take her joy away from the things that she used to do, which I have a ton of respect for, because most of us would just have a ton of crippling anxiety from that event where probably we wouldn't want to go back into that type of atmosphere. But she did, and she said the one thing she noticed is when she puts on makeup, she'll start to sweat because subconsciously her body associates that act with the trauma that followed it. And I was like, man, that's crazy. That is such a very detailed thing that happens in your life, but makes perfect sense. And I think about that a lot of when we look at other people and some of the details of the way that they live their life might seem so weird to us or might seem off to what we know as normal. But if you understood the context of it, it would make perfect sense. And I think that just stuck with me because, like I said, I walked into the meeting only seeing like chest up. So I had no idea that she had lost a leg. And it's another lesson in that you really don't know what people are going through or what they have been through unless you take the time to sit down and chat with them. And she's been someone that has inspired me since then. Like, I think about her story all the time.
Rob, it's so true. I mean, you talk about the perspective that she has, the perspective that story, has given you, and it's clearly something that you're going to take with you forever, and it's going to, continuously, impact the way you think about things. How are you kind of like chronicling this beyond the Instagram? Obviously, you capture these notes about these conversations or these individual stories. What else are you doing to kind of synthesize these thoughts and lessons? Or are they just things that kind of rattle around your brain and present themselves whenever they present themselves?
I think it's more of the latter. I mean, I do, like, I've done like podcasts here and there, and I've done the media stuff, and every time I do one of those, I guess it's a chance for me to share those lessons. Now that I'm getting into public speaking, it's made me think a lot more and reflect on what I've learned from the experience and what I can give to other people. So I would say that that's probably one of the bigger ways. I think a book is probably something in the future. Like, I'm not doing the project to write a book, but so many people ask me if I'm going to write a book that I think it's a natural progression from the project. And it would be cool to share my perspective and like the struggles and the behind the scenes of going through trying to like get just a really weird, unconventional idea off the ground, and not only get it off the ground, but have it be your career instead of a 9-to-5 job. There's stories I think that would be cool to share within that, but yeah, it's just the Instagram for now. And I think there's like, I've had Drew Scott from the Property Brothers. He and his twin brother have a show on HGTV. He reached out to me in February of 2020. He was super pumped about the project, wanted to talk about doing a show together. And then COVID happened, so that never happened. But Drew ended up becoming part of my project. I met him and his wife one of the times that I was in LA. And now I feel like as I continue to grow in my project, he's someone that I know, like, where if I get to a point where I feel confident, I could hit him up and say, hey, Drew, let's revisit this idea and maybe talk about how we can do something here. So I think there's a lot of possibilities. And that's something with the project is I let it evolve along the way. Like, there's a girl that I met and she said, I like to make plans and hold them loosely. And that's the same exact approach that I have to the project.
I think what you're doing, Rob, is so neat because, I mean, in many ways, like the world is as connected as ever, right? Like we all are kind of connected via social media and technology, but in many ways we're more disconnected than ever. We're very divided as a society. We've had the pandemic, which has, created a lot of isolation for many people, and there's a lot of disconnection. And I think your story is a powerful reminder is the power of connection. The power, like you say, that we're all more similar than we realize. We don't know necessarily the true story until we start to kind of peel back the onion. You don't know someone by looking at them on social media. You don't know someone by looking at them from the chest up on Zoom necessarily. I think what you're doing is so inspirational. And I guess where I want to wrap up, I mean, when you think about the future, and I know you're not somebody who necessarily plans everything out to a T. I mean, when you get to 10,000, because I know you're going to get there and you're almost halfway there, what do you think that's going to feel like?
Actually completing the project?
Yeah, getting to 10,000. What is that going to feel like?
I think I'll feel sad, to be honest, because it's this. I mean, I'll definitely feel accomplished, but there's one of the things I really enjoy about it is, and I don't know if you went through this when you graduated college, but when you're in high school, you work so hard to get into a good school. And then when you're in college, you work so hard to get a good job. And then you land at that job and you're like, now what? I got here. I don't know what the next thing I'm supposed to shoot for. Is it like a raise? Is it to find my wife, have kids, whatever? So when I started having this project, it put that goal back out in front of me. That's something that I woke up and I was motivated to work towards every day. And I love that about it. People sometimes mistakenly think that it's like, I want to rush through. They're like, oh, come to my thing. You can meet 30 people at once. Or I'm like, no, I don't want to meet. I want to meet one person for 1 hour at a time because I legitimately want to spend that time with them and sharing that experience with them. And I'm happy that it'll probably take like 9 more years to get there. But yeah, I think when I get there, I'll be like, man, that was such a cool chapter of my life. And it's sad that it's come to a close. But I have things that I want to do after it. Like I want to be a professor at a school and have a first year course for students to pair off one-on-one and learn from each other's backgrounds as opposed to a textbook or a PowerPoint. So I want to facilitate connection. I think I will still continue to incorporate intentional connection in my life. Like maybe not 3 people a day like I currently do, but maybe 3 people a week or 2 people a week. I think I'll definitely figure out what is next afterwards. But yeah, a sense of accomplishment. I think have you ever seen with Alex Honnold where he free solo, the documentary?
No, I have not.
So you should check it out. He climbs El Capitan with no ropes. So like this thousands of feet granite rock face that most people can't even do with ropes. And he does it without any ropes. So if he falls, he dies. He makes it, thankfully. But even as you watch it, you're like, this is crazy. And you see all the work that he put into it and all the training that he did to make sure that when he put his hand on a rock, he knew exactly where his thumb was going to be, where his fingers were going to be. So he was so calculated about it. And then he gets to the top of this thing that was a multi-year goal of his. And you see him come up and you would expect like someone winning the Super Bowl and like how amped those people are. Hey, he comes over the top and he's like, all right, I did it. And he's just kind of like, for him, all that joy was in the journey. And I think I see myself in a very, very similar way. So I'll feel accomplished, but it will be something that I'm sad to see go. So I'll have to throw another big goal up in front of me at that time.
Rob, the joy is in the journey. I think what you're doing is so fantastic. And I think the most important thing, like you hit on it, I think it has and it will continue to inspire people forever about the importance of connection and connecting with others. And that, we truly don't know much about someone until we take the time to reach out and have a conversation. I am so glad that we had a conversation today. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me, Rob, and keep pulling the tarp.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be on the show. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing too, because we're doing the same thing, different methods. And it's great. It's great for the world. So thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Rob. We'll talk again soon. Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Instagram at AndrewMoses123 And sign up for my monthly email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.